I am delighted to introduce is Thilina Lalitharatne. I apologize, Thilina. Thank you very much for joining us, Thilina, and I'll hand over to you to share your screen. Brilliant. We see your screen. We hear you. Thank you, Thilina.
Yeah. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Joshi. Thanks for inviting me for this session, and thanks for the organizers. So today in my talk, I will briefly talk about some of the studies that we are doing in my lab in Queen Mary University of London. So the specific topic that I selected for this talk is towards multimodal robot interaction for remote examination teleoperation, which is slightly bit different to the topics that we discussed already. So as I said, I'm from Queen Mary University of London, and I'm also part of a large center called Center for Advanced Robotics at Queen Mary, where we have different groups working under one place. But specifically in my lab, I'm interested in multimodal human-robot interactions, specifically related to assistive robots or medical robots. These are some of my existing work within my lab, and also my previous work previously I was in Fumia's lab and also in Imperial. So these are some of the existing or the previous work. So the talk that the specific topic that I wanted to talk in this particular session is about multimodal human-robot interaction, and then how we can use these approaches for specific remote examinations or teleoperation. To begin with, I would like to talk about bit about human-human interaction and then human-robot interaction. As you can see from this figure, I mean, when we humans meet each other, like we communicate in different forms. For example, we use vocal expression like language, and then also we communicate through facial expression, gestures, all sort of different expressions. So which makes the human-human interaction quite complex. But on the other hand, human-robot interaction also quite complex, because so in this figure, I try to kind of briefly introduce the idea of what I feel like the human-robot interaction is. So we have the robot and then human, and then obviously task or environment. So we always have this bidirectional communication method, like where we perceive something from the robot or the environment, and then also we provide actions towards the robot. So this is essentially pretty much similar to human interaction. But you can see, so this interaction can be multimodal, as I said, just similar to what we can see in human-human interaction. For example, mainly interaction can be kind of divided into like two main areas. If you think of a communication point of view, it could be verbal communication, specifically languages. Like we have a huge discussion about the languages these days, so which is one very prominent way of communicating. But also we have a large body of other form of communication, for example, non-verbal communication. So that is one of the interested area for my group. So specifically facial expression, because facial expression is one of the most expressive areas of a human body, which can produce 20,000, like for example, 20,000 different facial expression. Yeah, probably you can express basic 6 or 7 emotions, but on the other hand, together with all microfacial expression, we can produce a large number of facial expression, like different facial expression, which makes face is one of the very good source for like providing information, like passing information. And then also in terms of embodiment, we can think of a face as an embodied system, where like people have different faces, different complexion, different size, and then etc. So it's itself an embodied system. So, but what makes face or facial expression is quite unique or important is that decoding and encoding and decoding process in humans, because human can encode like very complex information in facial expression, and then they can very rapidly decode this information very efficiently, because of highly visual system, because this comes from millions of years of evolution. So people can easily decode the other person's facial expression compared to other expressions. So this makes us, I mean, this actually inspired us to kind of work on a specific study. This was in my previous work when I was in Cambridge. So the topic that we were interested in, physical examination. So you can see from this video, a person is trying to palpate a patient. Actually, this is like a simulated patient. But the idea of this physical examination is when doctors or medical students palpate on patients, they specifically look for patients' facial expression, because facial expression actually tells a lot of insight about the condition of that particular patient. So we were interested in this, and then we wanted to explore this idea of using facial expression specifically in remote examination cases. So the idea we had in that research was that how we can use a facial expression-based system, or like face-mediated system, to kind of remotely examine a patient and then test that model against another feedback, for example, another visual feedback. So this was the idea. This was the system that we developed. So you can see we have a physician, like, for example, that will be a person, and then we develop a robotic patient. I'll give you some information about this developed system. And then in the remote end, we implemented a robotic patient, robotic doctor. Actually, this was essentially a robotic manipulator. And then ideally, we should have been using a human patient, but I mean, we could have involved robotic human patient, but in our experiment, we use another robotic phantom instead of an actual human patient. So the idea was that basically to test the idea where the physician or like the user can examine a patient remotely using facial expression against another feedback. In this particular case, we use another feedback like 2D color map. So this, in fact, like two different, to me, like this is, in fact, we can consider as a two types of embodiment, because face is a 3D embodiment, and then it has different features. But on the other hand, color map is as a 2D information system, where it's just show 2D spatial distribution, like using color. So these are two different embodiments, and then we want to test whether which system is like performing with humans. To give you a quick idea about like how we develop the face, so this is actually the robotic patient that we developed. So this is actually a hybrid face, like a robotic face, where we manage to move the physical system, and then we use a projector to basically project a virtual face, and then it can kind of simulate different facial expression of different people. So when we develop these, one of the important things that we consider was that this facial action coordinate system, or we simply call FACS, because this system actually tell us about how these facial expression generate, because facial expression is actually generated using like all these facial muscles, but we can divide these muscles into small groups, and then we call these small groups as action units. So any facial expression we want to express is a combination of these action units. For example, if you want to if you want to show like disgust, so we have to actually actuate like these 4 different action units, like different muscle groups. So in our work, we use these 4 types of action units: AU4, which is brow lower, lip tightener, and then nose wrinkle, and then upper lip raiser, to kind of basically shows the pain expressions. And then we basically project this facial expression onto the movable face, the hardware face, to kind of get this 3D look of this face, or 3D like 3D embodied face. And then this is how we kind of implement the system. We had the robot patient at one end, and then we had the robotic face, and then we transfer the data from robotic patient. So we simply had like a low cell platform where like we asked participant to palpate, and then we send those data through UDP connection, and then based on that, robot basically did the palpation, and then the task was to kind of find a hard nodule embedded in one of these phantoms, and then try to find it using facial expression and versus using another alternative feedback, such as in this case, a color map. I can show you a video to kind of give you a better understanding. So this is actually during first phase, first experiment. Yeah, you can see that person is like, participant is like palpating on the phantom. And then the task was to kind of find this tiny nodule. We basically use a 3D printed nodule, a 3D printed ball, and then try to find it based on facial expression in one instant. And then maybe let me skip the video. And in the other set of experiments, we did the same experiment, but instead of face, in this case, we use a different embodiment. Like we use a simple 2D color map, which was essentially translation of sensor values from the robot to a color map instead of face. Yeah, so we did this experiment, and then we did multiple trials, and then what we found what we found from the experiment was that I mean, the participants were quite able to detect the nodule easily using facial expression as compared to color map, and then also the accuracy was higher in facial expression case. So which I think it's kind of obvious because as I said at the very beginning, humans are quite good at detecting faces like this kind of particular embodiment, compared to, because that embodiment, like, or the shape is like quite familiar for the humans, but compared to other different types of embodiment or like different visual feedback. But also we didn't find any differences in estimation time, but this actually kind of proved that we can use similar system, like similar feedback, like alternative feedback for this kind of application, especially for medical applications. Yeah, so this was like one study that we did related to this, and then we also explored other sensing modalities. For example, so as I said, mainly we in the previous study we mainly focused on visual like expressions, like the facial expression. But on the other hand, another very powerful sensing modality, or like the feedback, is vocal expression, specifically in physical examination, because when patient feel pain, and then when a doctor actually palpate on a patient, they express these pain using vocal expression, not necessarily not just only using facial expression, but also using vocal expressions. So in another study, we try to map this vocal expression given the palpation forces, like, and then we found that incorporating vocal expression together with facial expression is quite helpful for especially for a medical student to kind of practice in like physical examination, and then also like it would be useful for remote medical examination as well. So this is actually another work that we did within our group previously, and then at the moment, like within my group.
Sorry to bother you, Thilina. Is there any chance you could just wrap up with the next couple of minutes, and then we can come back to this in the
this will be my last slide.
Sorry.
Yeah, this will be my last slide. So at the moment, like we already, as I said, we already talk about visual feedback, and then also vocal feedback. But now we are interested in haptic or tactile sensory feedback, because that's also important for remote examination, like the scenario that I mentioned. So within my group, we recently developed this tactile sensing glove, where we can detect stiffness values from this soft robotics glove. So yeah, I mean that's all for my presentation. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah.
Thilina, really nice work, and I think it really brings also the human aspect, and the kind of this role of emotion and human experience and different multimodal sensing aspects to the discussion. So thank you very much. We'll come back to you again in the panel, and I think that